let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons, because I think it's important to touch on that. We see a lot of it going up locally. Mm-hmm. You mentioned, we haven't really there's really little to no political or public participation in that type of development. We're not incentivizing it. We're not going out and building the roads. They're absorbing all those costs and basically paying the full assessment ratio. Yep. So, what are the pros and cons of that type of development, and how does it factor into, we mentioned this stew of elements that goes into the decision-making process. If you're a manufacturer, is it important in your decision-making process to have access to distribution or, warehousing for your inputs if you're engaged in just-in-time inventory management for your own process? Like, is it necessary to have some degree of bandwidth in that space just to be able to accommodate a manufacturer that you might actually want?
Yeah. To answer your question there at the end, yes, you have to have available warehouse space for finished goods and raw materials. Mm-hmm. Not every small, medium, and large business has warehouse space under their own roof. So they have to go out and seek it. So they may work with a third-party logistics company to maintain that raw material for them that gets delivered to the production facility, and then that third-party group picks up the finished good and then stores it at their warehouse that might be here in York County. Mm-hmm. So you got to have that as part of the local economy asset mix, 100%. Where it becomes a challenge is when we're overrun or we have too much in just warehousing. And let's say that warehousing is a warehouse that has a finished good in it, and a online vendor has operations there, and they're importing majority of those goods from offshore, i.e. China, and then just ship to consumer or to business, versus being truly part of the manufacturing environment that we have in the local community or the state. Mm-hmm. I think there's two differentials there that we have to be very cognizant of. You have to have both, but you can't have more of one than the other. The pros to having warehouse is, yes, available space. They do provide jobs in warehouses. In some cases, and we've seen this in some urbanized areas or areas that it's just specialty warehousing, they may have more automation than people. And with automation becomes capital investment, and that creates more tax base in some cases. Mm-hmm. We've seen examples. I know like Kroger, I think, has some big warehouses that huge investment because it's all automated. Mm-hmm. Pick and pack is no longer done by 100 people. It's done by 2 people, and they have to just make sure the machinery's running.
Yeah, but that machinery might be $150 million worth of machinery.
Exactly. Job-wise, they're still out there, but wages we do know have gone up in the warehouse industry, logistics industry.
Yeah.
And you can have some good positions in there. Like my son's studying supply chain for his major at Anderson University. And so I've talked to him a lot about it, and he's seen many examples in local manufacturers. I've tried to push him towards that, but I've explained to him, you could also go work at a warehouse. Work for like locally Ross or, DHL or those kind of companies, because they'll hire you. Mm-hmm. So there's good jobs, good diversity of economic base to grow. The cons are you oftentimes will see that high land absorption, the truck impacts, the trucking in and out, depends on the type of operation that's going on, but it can sometimes have a negative impact in an area that might already be saturated. I will say this, the one good thing on new developments when they're done in York County and our cities is there's a traffic impact analysis that is required. So it's taken into account by the type of development that's going to occur there. If it's a warehouse use, they do trip calculations and say, it's going to be okay under the current road infrastructure setup, or no, you want to build that, you have to make these improvements, and then that'll help cause less problems.
You know, it's funny. I catch myself all the time where I'll drive by a distribution. I'm like, do we really need more of this? But then if I order something online, I really want it the next day. If I order something on Amazon, I'm like, is it going to be delivered tomorrow?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's, I guess, if you want that convenience of being able to order something and get it, or I don't know, your grocery store being filled with food,
Right.
you've got to have some storage capacity in your area. So
100%. And, we're blessed in that our country has a lot of these resources to make certain industries and new economies go well.
Yeah.
How many times have people used Amazon in the last 5 to 10 years, and we're just in time next day here? Didn't even used to be that way maybe 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in, I'll just say Afghanistan, not happening.
Yeah.